Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Hello. Hope you are doing well. Welcome, welcome, everyone, over here again to our happy place. Oh, my goodness. Welcome in. Oh, what a week it's been. It's been a busy week. Not a bad week, but a busy week, right? So I think we are surviving. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Hello, Kristen. Good to see you. Kaya, Kelly, hello, hello. Patricia, well, welcome. Welcome in. I do appreciate everybody coming over here and joining me. It is so much calmer over here. Very laid back, very relaxing. True story, Kristen. No hunting so far. Oh my goodness. Yes, people seem to really like that post. I didn't think it was that unusual, but there you have it. Nevertheless. Oh my goodness. People are fascinated. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. Yes, yes, yes. So, but welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. I am so glad you could join me over here. I had been trying to post multiple things. Oh, very different vibe indeed. Multiple things on these election cases over on TikTok, and it has just been a struggle. So, figure out the super chats. I went through and I looked through it, but I still couldn't figure out how to turn it on. And I just don't know. Yeah, I'm still working on it. So I'm still working on it. I'm feeling okay that it's not on at the moment, but yeah, I need to go forward on that at some point. I'll have to figure a lot of those things out. But yeah, so I really am going to be doing a lot of the election lawsuits over here because um, I'm just not able to, hold on everybody, I'm reading here. Yeah, I'm not able to kind of get that information going over there as easily. So yeah, I tell you, the super chat, I just do not know. I don't even know what to turn on. I'm just not even sure how to do that. I'm just glad I'm at least here. So that's number one, a win. I'm here at least. Good evening, good evening. Can't send gifts. Oh, I know, I know, I know. I know, I know, I know. I think part of it's because I don't have the account set up yet to receive any kind of monetization yet. So there were some things going on that I had to switch my YouTube account around, and also they were making some changes. So I don't have any way to kind of monetize over here. So I think that's probably why it's not really an option, but I am working on it. So it should be kind of put together at some point. I don't think it's a certain number of followers. I think I just have to be able to monetize the channel, and at this point, I don't have it set up for that. I think that's the big thing. I'll keep working on it though. Brenda, hello. Patricia, hello. Mom Llama, hello, hello. Lee, welcome, welcome in. Yeah, I've got to keep working on it. I've got lots of things in the works here. So my YouTube is just not monetized. I'm hoping to get it monetized soon, but I still have all my paperwork and various things to do. Yes, Laura, I saw that. I saw that, and I think I couldn't remember exactly when her Zoom chat was, but um, yeah, probably Kristen. Probably I'll have to work on that. What time is her Zoom call tonight? I can't remember. I did see though that Zoom was trying to make it so more people could register to join. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a great idea to really kind of, modernize the old way of going and talking with people. We would call them coffee talks. 8:30. Okay, is on the invite. Okay, okay. I was wondering. So 7:30 Central. Okay. Excellent, excellent. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, when I was looking at it, I was saying, okay, we should be okay. over here. So wonderful, wonderful. No, no, no. I know what you mean, Kelly. I think it's so much fun though that she's doing it. I think that's great. So back in the old days, I compare a lot of my old experiences with campaigning to today. Back in the old days, there would be no way to have that kind of a call. So I think it's wonderful to be able to do that. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great. Absolutely. I think the more the better. It's been such a whirlwind going on here. I think it's great. Anything she can do to kind of reach out and talk with people, I think is amazing. I think that's really great because it's not about the big huge donors only that pay $50,000 per plate to come to Mar-a-Lago. It's about talking to the people, and I think she's made that pretty clear. So I think that's what she wants her vibe to be, and I'm definitely excited to see her be able to do that. I think that's one thing with candidates, that if you can sit down and talk to them, it's a really different way of figuring out who you really want to go for. That's one thing with Joe Biden, was if you actually had a chance to sit down and chat with him, you would have no doubt in your mind. But um, the ability to sit down and chat with every single person in the country is just not possible, right? So that's one of the drawbacks of being kind of an old school politician, is that you've got to be able to get out there. So how is everybody doing? Article really about her campaign success specific to TikTok. Yes, OVC, she is just hitting it out of the park over here on TikTok. She definitely, I think she understands that the people are over here, that she needs to get moving. So I think that's great. The one thing about TikTok is that there's a lot of movements. So if you want something to happen and you come over to TikTok, you can make it happen over here. So, how would they know what the people want without talking to them? Great question. Great question. And there's just a lot of assumptions there. Really, are you guys struggling to hear me? Hold on, everybody. Let me see what I can do about that. All right. I had some tech problems last time, so let me see what I can do over here. Move some things around. Let me get my mic. There we go. How about now? Is that better? Is that better? Hopefully. Really happens by your house. Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's slightly different. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me. Yeah, turn it up. Okay, you can hear me fine. Okay, okay. I was wondering, sometimes I'm just, I'm moving all around all the time, so I have to remember to speak to the mic. So I'll have to remind myself of that. With headphones. All right. Oh, it's me, not it's totally me. It's not my mic. That's funny. That's funny. You can hear me better now. Okay, 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 good. Yes. Well, I'm always working at the highest of qualities here, everyone, with my one woman show here. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, let's go ahead and dive in for tonight, everyone. I'm so excited you could come over and hang out with me. I really wanted to talk about this for a while. I kind of had this set up before, and then it was on the back burner. And, as different, things hit the fan, we kind of got to adapt to it. So we have what I'd like to go through and just get started on tonight is, this is not something I'm able to do over on TikTok, which is really go through the lawsuits that were filed for the 2020 election. So I did one post that was an overview, and I do plan on doing other posts, although I'm struggling with it. I got a community guidelines violation on that one post and had to appeal it, and just on the post that made it through already. So I'm kind of struggling a little bit with that. So it makes sense to kind of be over here. Yeah, well, thank you, Sheila. Yeah, I think it's nice to kind of be over here and talk about it, get good information out there without having to worry about getting called in. So I've had several of my posts, you know, if I can figure out who is reporting me and figure out how to block them, then I can, and then I get like a little bit of a respite. But if I can't figure out who's reporting me, then, there's no way. I just have to go, post by post and try to figure out what's going on there. So it's been a bit of a hello, Thomas. Hello, welcome, welcome. It's been a bit of a hassle. So it is nice to be able to come over here because we can really talk about it. These cases, everybody, in the 2020 election, oh my gosh. I tell you what, I feel like attorneys have turned into like the evil minions here because there were so many lawsuits that were filed and so many like inappropriate lawsuits. And, if there was really this much widespread fraud, why didn't you file lawsuits in all of the states? But they were only filed in the key states. And then, of course, a couple of extras here and there. But, if you're only filing in 10 states and you're claiming that or 13 states, and you're claiming that all 50 states had fraud, like, that's suspicious, It's a little bit suspicious. So I wanted to do an overview of the cases that were filed and what they were about and what their status was, just to remind everybody, because we're going to see it again. This is going to happen again. I have no doubt in my mind that we are going to start seeing an avalanche of lawsuits. So last night I did go over the Electoral College over on TikTok, and I kind of went through the new rules in the Electoral Count Act that they added in. So there were a few new rules, which I think will help a lot. But I think it's important to just know this is going to happen, so we can, brace for it, so to speak. So this is an article that was put together, Stanford MIT Healthy Elections Project, and I thought they did a really good job. This particular publication did a great job of putting all of these together. I've gone through maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 different publications. I've got my little binder here of all the states and all of the cases. But I liked this one, how they really condensed everything down. So if you're interested also in looking this up, it is again the Stanford MIT Healthy Elections Project. And I'm going to just go through the appendix here to give us an overview of the cases on here. Was 45. Yeah, the Republicans. Well, right. Although it's interesting too, because of course the Senate race in Georgia had multiple lawsuits. That was the other one. There was a U.S. Senate race in Georgia where there were a ton of lawsuits. So that also was pretty suspicious, in my opinion. But those were kind of separate from the presidential ones. But then it makes you wonder, like, what's going on with that particular race that's making it so that you're, after that Senate race. So there's a lot of questions going on. So here we go. We've got Arizona, and then a set of cases here. And this is an overview, and then we'll start walking through the case a little bit. District of Columbia had Wisconsin Voters Alliance versus Pence, and this case had to do with Pence's role as the VP with the counting of the electors. Michigan Welfare Rights Organization versus Trump, that was included here as well. So that's the DC cases. Then we've got Georgia, and there are so many cases that were filed in Georgia, everybody. My goodness gracious, look at this. All of these cases filed in Georgia. Yikes, look at that, that's so much. Then we have Michigan, tons of cases. Probably the biggest case out of Michigan was the King case. So tons of filings here as well. Also, I suppose Benson was pretty big too. So these are some pretty big cases. Then we have Minnesota, which, was kind of a gray area for a swing state. They had thought about, oh, you're welcome, Golden Guide Books. You're absolutely welcome. This was one of those gray areas where they weren't sure if they were going to do the fake electors or not in Minnesota. There was some discussion, but then they decided not to. But it was kind of, it was questionable. So Minnesota's got a few lawsuits here too. Again, these are Minnesota cases that were filed. Then we have Nevada. So we've got a big batch of cases. One case in New Mexico, but it's a big one, the Toulouse case here. New York also had one, and then Pennsylvania had a ton. And a lot of the suits in Pennsylvania were filed beforehand. So there's about 5 lawsuits that were filed in Pennsylvania. Again, these are all Pennsylvania. Before Election Day that were really kind of telling about how they were going to start going after the process itself. So we have Texas filing as well, and now Texas is filing against Vice President Pence, saying what his job was again, rather than ceremonial. And then Texas versus Pennsylvania, where we had a group of states saying that the other states weren't running their elections properly. So, yeah, it's a great question. Why is she still in Congress? Great question. And then we've got Wisconsin here. So Wisconsin had quite a few as well. So we've got our big swing states have a ton of lawsuits, and then we've got a couple more sprinkled in there. So what I'm thinking is that the lawsuits really came in states where they had licensed attorneys in the Republican Party who were willing to file. So, that was really the big thing. Like, who was the Arizona attorney willing to file these cases? So, I think that's what you're looking at is the location of the attorneys and where their licenses were. Because, there's a lot in Georgia, but we've also got Michigan had a big bit, but also Minnesota. So I think there was like a little rainmaker in Minnesota. That means just a person who was like, man, we'll just file as many cases as we can here in Minnesota. And a little rainmaker there in Nevada too. So I think that's a big part of it was the attorneys who were also part of it. Is a ton of good. Yes, exactly, VC. Oh, I know. They've got good stuff. Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, so they did a lot. They did a lot of really great work. Never heard of the lawsuits. Really. Well, there's quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there were 8 lawsuits filed in Minnesota. And I'll walk you through these cases. We'll just kind of touch on them, but yeah, there were quite a few. But it looks like out of all the states, Pennsylvania and Georgia had the most lawsuits filed. So let's take a look. We'll start with Arizona, which of course we did have the fake electors going on there. So the first case here that they've got listed, again, this is the citation for the document I'm going through here, where they've just done this amazing job of putting this information together. So career limiting move, yeah, exactly. Ugh, man, I tell you. We've got Bowyer versus Ducey. This case is closed. The issue, though, on this case, and I think what's really important is to note what the issues were, and then, of course, how the case was closed. So the issue was a range of fraud allegations. We had mandamus denied. Mandamus meant that they were requesting a legal stopping of something or a legal change of something. So federal district court held the plaintiffs lacked standing because there were no candidates and alleged no concrete harm. The court held the plaintiffs failed to state a claim, delayed too long in bringing the claim, and attempted to bring claims that were moot. The court also held that the Colorado River abstention was warranted in this case. 11th Amendment barred plaintiffs' request to mandate decertification. So we do have a discussion here of the 11th Amendment. Noting that plaintiffs did not provide any evidence for their claims, the court dismissed the suit. So we had no evidence, and that's pretty much the trend here. We have no evidence where courts are dismissing the suits, and then we just have the party themselves dismissing it, so a voluntary dismissal of the suit. So we've got 13 Arizona voters, 1 candidate for the Republican slate of presidential electors, brought the suit against Arizona state officials, including the governor and the secretary of state. They said poll watchers failed to adequately verify signatures on ballots. So again, when we're talking about what are our issues going to be in these lawsuits coming up, the first one's going to be our poll watchers. All right. Has anyone done any poll watching work? I'm just wondering about that. I'm curious if anyone's had some experience doing the poll watching. Party of Law and Order. Oh, I know, right? Because poll watching, it's not glamorous. It's not a pretty job. It's pretty hard work, actually, if you are selected or you volunteer to do poll watching. Poll workers would, right. So poll watchers in VC, I think it's good to make that distinction between a poll worker and a poll watcher. It's going to depend on your state. we have a group of poll watchers, and those can be people from parties coming in and kind of watching and seeing how many people are coming in to vote. But then we have the poll workers, where are the ones that are nonpartisan. They're there to help make the election go smoothly and to do the different parts of the election. So there are two categories when we're dealing with poll people. So poll watchers, poll workers. I think that's really important to remember, because there were a lot of issues on whether poll watchers from the parties were allowed to actually, double check and make sure everything was okay. But we had a verified signature question on ballots. Dispute referees were biased and partisan. So, dispute referees, we don't have those in every state. We only have those in some states. They're saying they were biased and partisan because they were registered independents. Because they were registered independents, they were biased? What? There's no chain of custody for the data backups from the voting machines supplied by Dominion Voting Systems, which is like, that's really chain of custody, my goodness gracious. And that the Dominion machines suffered from errors during state evaluations. So we've got the machines issue. So we've got machines here, and they're saying that the refs were not partisan. So those were a couple of the big ones. Representatives from the UN, great question. But I think according to Project 2025, the UN is left leaning. It's just the liberals that run the UN. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that could be a problem. That could be a problem. It's a great question though. Who can we have here to watch these? And Mr. Trump has been saying we're going to have lawyers at the polls, watching the polls. Like, what's the difference between a lawyer watching a poll and a regular citizen watching a poll? Like, what? The lawyer is making sure that the laws are being followed. Like, that's law enforcement then. That's not a lawyer. So that's another question that I've got here. Like, why is it that we have to have attorneys at the polls in order to make sure that the election isn't fraudulent? Because now we're getting into a whole nother world. Hello, Just Do It. Good to see you. We're into a whole nother world here of kind of an intimidation, because what happens if you go in to vote and you just see like 6 people in suits standing there? You know what I mean? How dirty and how, oh, I know. And they do. I mean, it's not going to make any difference if I'm at a poll versus a regular citizen, unless I try to make it a big deal and try to make it some kind of bullying situation, or try to throw some power around that doesn't really exist. So it's intimidating. It's that would be voter intimidation right there. Not want to vote. Right, exactly. I mean, voting's enough of a pain in the keister, everybody. Let's just be real about it. You've got to fill out your paperwork. You've got to have everything registered. You've got to have everything sent in. And then if you're doing it by mail, you have to have all that stuff done. Or if you're going in person and doing it. I mean, voting, there's a lot of stuff you got to do in order to vote. Like, we don't need more things to make it so you don't want to vote, like having some people in suits there. Oh, true, Ellie. That's a good point. And there were a lot of concerns about that in the last election, weren't there? That people were going to be out in the parking lots doing some intimidation. That's pretty illegal to be doing that. Have to stay away from the polls unless there's a disturbance. Exactly right, because you don't want to have that kind of intimidation going on. So it's a problem. I don't really know how that's going to be dealt with, and I think as we get closer, we'll figure it out. But all right, so that's our first case in Arizona here. We've got poll watchers, we've got the machines questions, and then the refs. The next case out of Arizona was Ward v. Jackson. This was a hand count audit here, and we had a petition for certiorari, and the case, of course, is closed. We have the Arizona Supreme Court sitting on bonk, unanimously held plaintiffs had not provided any evidence to indicate that the hand count audit required by the state election code prior to the final canvass was insufficient to discover fraud. So they're saying here that the count was insufficient, and the court was saying, you have no evidence to show us that. And that question will become like, well, what is sufficient for you? What exactly is sufficient for you in order for you to feel comfortable with how the results are? Because I'm wondering, like, does the entire Republican Party need to run the entire election? Or can they just be active participants like they're supposed to be? I think that's a really good question. Turn around and get some interesting people. Well, there you go. Oh, we should be able to vote online. Oh, I agree. The online voting situation needs to be kicked up a notch. I think we're getting there, but we're pretty slow. We're slow moving for technology, but I think that would be great. I think that would be a really great thing. I think that's how we're going to be able to get into popular voting, is once we start getting our tech up to date. So, but that's what's going on here. They're saying that the count was insufficient, and the court was saying you have no proof of that. So there you go. The next Arizona case, Burke v. Ducey here. This had to do with the Dominion software. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Dominion software cases because Dominion has shown time and time again that their machines are valid, that they are in compliance with all of the laws, and that their software is absolutely fine. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I think it's worth noting that we're going to have, I'm wondering if Dominion's going to be providing these machines again, first of all. And if not, whoever is providing the software then needs to be prepared to be getting dinged on it. That's my question. Do you think that Dominion's going to be back again? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, my mood ring. Ah! Is Dominion coming back for another election now that they've said, look, because I think that would be actually helpful if Dominion did come back, because they've been proven time and time again with defamation suits, with everything, that they are properly functioning machines. So I'm curious if they'll be back or not. They're not replacing their whole systems. I'm hoping so. Georgia paid $120 million. Yeah. I think that would be great, because we've already got this precedent of all of these Dominion lawsuits claiming the software was bad, and that's all been proven incorrect. And so now we've got, now they can't go after the software again. It reminds me of that. Oh, I know. They provide the machines. Okay, the software is international. Okay. Interesting. We'll see what happens. Again, we kind of compare this to, I think Bush v. Gore was probably the only other time where there were so many questions about the proper counting of stuff, and the tech was so different then. So it's very interesting to see how things develop over time. All right, so we got a Dominion question here. We've got Stevenson v. Ducey here, which is another one, and this issue was illegal voting. So let's just, again, we're pulling out our issues. Illegal voting. This was a voluntary dismissal, which again, I think is important to note which one of these cases they just filed and then immediately dismissed themselves, because that's showing again this kind of issue of filing frivolous lawsuits. So here we go. Plaintiffs, and this was December, plaintiff members of Arizona Election Integrity Association alleged that grant aid from the Center of Tech and Civic Life helped fund the election in Maricopa County, that the absentee ballot error rate was impermissibly high, and that the state officials did not enforce residency requirements and permitted double voting. So we have residency requirements and double voting. I mean, come on, right? Like, it frustrates me because these people have jobs to do. This is like their job, and they're being like questioned about that. Like, obviously they're not double voting. Based on these purported violations of state law and the U.S. Constitution, they sought an injunction against the certification of the state election results. So residency requirements and double voting. I think we'll see that again. I think we'll see a lot of questions of if someone is in the proper place or has properly registered. And if not, then their vote shouldn't count. I think we'll see a lot of that again. That's in the cards, in my opinion. So next we had another question in Arizona on the hand count audit. Again, we had another one on the electronic voting systems. Let's just double check here. Right. Oh, this case was dismissed with prejudice. Yikes. There was just no evidence here. They were alleging that the electronic system did not count one of their votes and that the other ballot was rejected by the tabulator and subjected to off-site human adjudication. Plaintiffs sought the ability to cast a ballot that would be counted and an opening of the off-site adjudication process to the public. That's interesting. I'm wondering if we're going to have a lot of those too, where we have individual voters claiming that their vote wasn't counted because they didn't see how it was counted. I'm curious if that's going to happen or not. Oh, I know, the nerve. Oh my gosh, I know. It was a lot. So we may have that. We may have a lot of single voter lawsuits. So again, we're just kind of predicting here. We're kind of trying to figure out what they're going to be doing in the future. So single voter lawsuits, because that can really plug up your system too. If you have 100 single voters who are saying, I didn't see my vote counted, so I don't know if the process was correct, that could really slow things down. Although we do have this safe harbor rule in place, so I think there's that, which is lucky. I never see my vote being counted. Well, right. I mean, you don't have a right to see your vote being counted. You can vote, but the process of voting itself is set up by the state, by their Board of Elections, and they go through the legal process through there. Like part of seeing your actual vote itself, in order to make sure it was counted, is not something that is a constitutional right. Like everybody doesn't need to turn into a PI all of a sudden. We're like, everyone's like a magnum out there. Where's my vote? I got to follow it the whole way through to make sure my vote is counted. Like, what are we doing here? That's crazy. When it's been received and counted. Right. Well, that's awesome. I love that. Colorado is probably, I would say Colorado is the top state when it comes to election processes. And they've had a lot of work. A lot of their law is like really old, actually, because they've been working on it for a long time. That's been huge for Colorado. So I think that'd be great if that goes into other states as well, to have that level. All right, so next we've got the Hobbs case. We have a request to halt the canvass until the review of overvoted in-person ballots. So they're saying too many people voted. So let's take a look at that one. Brought suit against the Arizona Secretary of State and Maricopa County Recorder, alleging qualified voters who cast their ballots in person on Election Day had their ballots improperly disqualified as an overvote with an additional adjudication or review. So in-person votes, were tossed. All right, so do you know what an overvote is? Does anyone know what this particular overvote means? So here it's alleging violations of multiple clauses of the Arizona Constitution, including equal protection and equal access to the elections, as well as various election-related statutes, including this one. Complaint included declarations from 6 voters. Plaintiffs sought an injunction prohibiting canvassing until these overvotes were permitted to be reviewed and adjudicated. So if you have voted by mail, or you voted by mail, or and then you go in and vote the same day, or if they think that there is some kind of mix-up with the vote, then typically what they do is they kind of put your vote on ice then until they can get it sorted out. And so I think that's what they're wanting here. More than one choice in a race? Really? Could be. They voted for too many people. Okay. Yeah. Sounds right. That's the other thing too, everybody. What do we do? What do we do about that? When people vote for too many people, then do you get a fresh ballot? Do they give you another ballot to go through and use? I'm curious. I don't even know. Citizens are saying person isn't supposed to be voting, and then the person had to go and prove themselves to be back in the voter rolls. Yep, that happens too. Their mark they made is unclear. Yep, we've got that. Or it looks like they used a marker that bleeds through. Yes, or they didn't fill right. You know, you didn't fill your thing out quite properly. If the person's still there, okay, that's a good question too, because what happens if your ballot, if you didn't fill out your ballot properly? Then, I mean, you know, this is where we've got our hanging Chad situation, right? Like what, you know, I wonder if that should be another part of this whole election this year, everyone, is how to properly fill out a ballot to reduce the number of incorrect ballots. I mean, what do you think? Would that be appropriate to actually go through and include that? You know, make some ads on this is how you do it, don't do it like this. Or what happens if the poll worker tells you to step to the side? Or what happens if you've already had an absentee ballot? Or if you go in and vote, what happens if you don't remember? Like that could be really part of the whole process, is educating the public about the process itself. It seems like that would be very helpful. Mm-hmm. The machine will kick it out, and if the person's still there, they can fill it out again. Oh, I love that. So, what would it be helpful then for people to know? I'm wondering if you could take a voting machine and explain it to the public. Like, this is the machine, this is how it works. If the ballot's incorrect, it'll spit it out, just wait. And if it does, you'll need to need to redo it. Like, I mean, that I think to me would be a huge element for this particular race, is going to be voter education. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm doing this with the League of Women Voters. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. We have ads on TV and then instructions. Yes, Spencer. Well, one of the things I noticed too, actually, was in watching Thailand, was that they would explain exactly how each piece worked and what each piece meant. But we don't have that a lot here. I mean, we might have that in some of our bigger cities, but you know, in my communities, I've never seen anything like that that actually explains the process itself, or the machine itself, or you know, the bubbles, like how it actually works. I've never seen that. Okay, right there. Okay, right. Not everyone has a machine. Right, exactly. Right, and you know, we have like a hybrid where it's you know, kind of a machine but also not a machine. They do provisional votes. Right, and that's the other thing too, everyone. I'm just thinking, when you get a chance, can you tell Kamala what we're suggesting here? Right, somebody give her a call, would you? So we need to explain how provisional ballots work. I think because our education situation is really lacking here. I'm wondering, gosh, I could do some lives on it, but there's so many different kinds. There's so many different kinds. Oh my gosh, maybe this should be a new series on how your voting works. And we could have someone come in and explain for each of the states how their voting works. Like, what actually is an absentee ballot? What is that? What is the machine? How does it work? How do you fill out the paper ballots? You know, I mean, I think that would be really helpful for people to just kind of swim around in this education, so that people would understand better what these mean, because it seems like a lot of the panic over these lawsuits were they didn't know what a Dropbox was. They didn't know how a Dropbox worked. They didn't know like how things get picked up and put down, and how many things need to be you know, shredded, and when old ballots get destroyed, you know, how long ballots are kept for. Like, none of that information is really available. Like, you can go search it out, but you know, who does that? Nobody. Like, nobody does that. Schoolhouse Rock. Yes, we need Schoolhouse Rock, everybody. Schoolhouse Rock needs to get on breaking apart this whole voting process. As a poll worker, if you do not understand, then they should write up. True, but how do you know that you can even ask a poll worker? Let me ask you that, Navy Vet. Like if I go into my voting place, like my poll workers, like I don't even want to disturb them because I'm afraid they're gonna make it so I can't vote. You know what I mean? Like there's so much power there where they are like, if you ask the wrong question, can they revoke your vote? So you don't want to like cause, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to shake the boat. So, and of course they're wonderful. And in my particular area, they're like over 80 and they're fabulous. Lovely people spending the entire day there with their egg salad sandwiches and they're amazing. But I feel a little intimidated asking any questions because I'm afraid that they're going to be like, you can't vote. Absolutely feel that way. Well, right, right. So how is it that we can make people more comfortable, like asking their poll worker questions if they have questions? They ask if you need help. Right, right, true. But I always just say no, I don't. It's just for me, it's a knee-jerk question because I'm afraid, or I'm even afraid like when I'm filling out the ballot, if I have a question, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like taking a test. If I walk away from it or I ask a question, like it's invalid for some reason. I think there's just kind of this, you know, pall over voting where it seems like really intimidating. Like if you make one mistake, then this huge constitutional right is no longer yours. Do you know what I mean? It just seems really intimidating. And even as an attorney, when I go in, I'm just like, did I fill out the bubble properly? Like, did I did I do this right? Is this okay? Am I going to get my sticker that says I vote? I mean, did I do it right? I think there's just a lot of, it's not a big deal, but I think a lot of people feel like it is a big deal. I don't think I'm alone. Maybe it's just me, everybody. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Ah, yes. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Well, I don't know. I think that there is some, worry that it's not going to work out correctly when you go in and do it. I'm just saying. When a lot of people come in and ask attorneys questions, they're intimidated because they don't know what's good, what's okay, what's not okay. I think sometimes that has to do with, voting also. So I'm just thinking, like, how can we make it so that people are more comfortable with it? Social anxiety, I can see why they'd be nervous. They should vote early. Absolutely. Right, right. And I think it is an intimidating process, Carrie. I mean, in my opinion, and again, in my humble opinion, when I go in there, I tell you what, I feel like if I say the wrong thing or I do the wrong thing, they're going to just tell me to leave. And for me, I'm like, I don't want any conflict. I'm just going to go. And so that's it. Like no voting for me. We try to offer classes, Q&A sessions. Nobody comes to them. Interesting, VC. So again, it's this idea of voluntarily asking questions versus just having it shoved in your face. So we have to shove it. We have to shove it in their faces. Ah. It could be. It could be. Well, that is part of it. I am in a very red state, and it is difficult to go in not being completely white. That's true. But, I still try. I think it's an intimidating process. And, I'm not the only brown voter trying to get me to not vote. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, maybe that is something that has to do with the kind of, the race card. There's only 3% in my community of people like myself. So I guess I am kind of worried whenever I go into a situation like that if I'll be pushed away. Votes by mail. I love that. That's genius. I wish everybody would do that. I think that's wonderful. All right. So I digress, everybody. Here we go. So hopefully, they'll get all of that sorted out. But you got to educate the people because if you take away this idea of, I don't know how it works, if you pull that uncertainty away, then we're not going to have these kinds of lawsuits. We're not going to have these kinds of issues. Yeah, 3%. Yeah, I'm in a scary place. I don't go outside much, people. All right. So here we go. District of Columbia, we've got two lawsuits. The first one is Electoral Count Act, allegedly violates Article 2. So that one was tossed. And then we also had voter disenfranchise. And this case was a little bit different. Um, yeah, voting, I mean, overseas, that's why we have the absentee ballots, right? That was the original reason why. It'd be really nice if high schools would do oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea, especially because, they would know your community better too. 40%. Yeah, I know. I'm out, I'm not in a safe place. Yikes. We've had to have law enforcement clear the voting location. Really? For certain individuals trying to block the interest. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I guess I don't really think about it. I just think everybody is the same as me, so I don't really realize like how careful I am about not upsetting anybody so that I don't have privileges revoked. I guess I don't even acknowledge it anymore other than just this idea. That's why I think everyone's like, "What? It's not that big of a deal," but for me, it's a big deal. Any day not. Really? Okay, that's a good idea, VC. The Arizona, they're always at the churches. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, you know what I'm saying, Thomas. You know what I'm saying. Are you likely to call the authorities? Yeah, I think. Hello, Boxer Mom. Hello. Yeah, I guess that's one of the things. And so don't get me wrong. I think it's that way for any community that has a large number of one group of people versus the other. So I mean, the same holds true in communities where, in any community where you're a minority, it doesn't have to be, you know, schools teaching it could make it unclear. It's an individual choice though, and push one party over another. True, Spencer. That's a good point. Although I have to say, I'm not sure that the process of voting is where the issue of pushing voting values would be the issue. Like, I'm more concerned about the Bible being taught in school than the teacher teaching you how to vote, but you going into the booth yourself and choosing. I think that's a good question, though. Glass bottles thrown at me from moving vehicles. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to be careful. So I moved out of the middle of the U.S. Yeah, yeah. Some dreams can come true someday. Everybody. Yikes. Yeah, someday. Too privileged. I don't have this feeling. It makes me angry that you do. No, it's okay. I mean, this is just part of life. I think it's just, honestly, for me, it's a learning experience talking to people that don't go through that experience. I think that that's great because then, like, okay, well, that makes sense then. I can understand, why I'm the only one having a panic attack and everyone else is just like, whatever, sign me up, whatever. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm sorry, what I do? Like, don't come for me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's not safe out there for me. It's not safe. Uh, I forget how hard it is for people not like me. Well, yeah, I think so. I think it's good to have these discussions, and I think it's okay to have an open discussion about it. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody. It doesn't make me angry. It's just something I need to take into consideration when I go in. I mean, my thought when I go in, it's incredibly intimidating. I'm very careful. I vote at my library, and so when I go in, I'm just very careful. I don't make a lot of eye contact. I just kind of go in, give my information, and kind of keep my head down, and then grab what I need to grab, fill it out, and then hopefully they just let me go on my way. So, I guess I thought everybody did it that way. So if you don't do it that way, for me, this is a real uh, learning moment as well. Yeah, I mean, exactly, Kristen. I mean, exactly, whatever your appearance is. For me, I can't pass for white, but it can be very frustrating, and also as a woman too in my area, quite frankly, it's not easy as well. So yeah, that's the thing. And having the other options, I think, to eliminate that kind of stress is amazing. But not, one of the things, listen, let me tell you straight up, I don't know how the absentee ballot works. Here's the deal. Here's the deal, everybody. I'm gonna confess right now. I know you're supposed to send information in, and then they send you the ballot. Or sometimes you just get the ballot in the mail and they're like, here you go, fill it out or whatever. But I'm like paranoid that my vote's not going to count. You know what I mean? Like, I know if I fill this out and I send this in, like, what if it gets lost in the mail? What if I didn't send it to the right place? What if I didn't fill it out properly? Or what if somehow by doing this, I'm on a list now that like takes down my information? Like, I'm not saying those are valid concerns. I'm just saying that that's what makes me hesitant to do an absentee vote, because I'm worried about all of these other things. Like, if I go in and if I vote myself, at least I've got a chance that I'll do it right. So, right? I mean, is that me? Is that just me, everybody? Is that? Tell me if it's just a me thing. Does anybody else feel that way or not? That's why we don't mail them the house. We take them directly. Okay, yeah. Uses a tracking system. Okay, so the tracking system, is that explained? So, I mean, I do mail, but check and see if it was received. Okay, it's just you, Kristen. Kristen, you're giving me such a hard time tonight. In some states, you can be a permanent. Really? You can turn it into your polling place. Okay. Yes, we're nervous filing those out of the top. Right. Okay. It's not just you. Okay, well, shoot, thanks, Sheila. I appreciate that. Woo! Oh, my goodness. There's a text saying your ballot's recorded. Okay, it is just me. Now, come on. Come on, people. It can't just be me. Maybe I have voting anxiety. I've got some kind of PTSD from voting. I've had a couple of very negative voting experiences. And I think I might just have PTSD from it. It's a lot of people. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I need to do that. I should do that. All right. So, maybe that's something that we could help, especially with a lot of our older voters. Maybe they feel similar to me. maybe, it's, they're worried about whether or not their vote's going to be counted because they don't understand. They don't understand how it works. You might, like, I don't know. I guess I thought everybody felt that way. I was wondering why my significant other always looked at me funny. It's like, what? What are you doing? Oh my gosh. Won't be at, really? You're nervous of the area? Yes. Well, yeah, that's nerve wracking. But I mean, it sounds like if we can do the absentee ballots, um, maybe this year's the year to figure that out. Maybe for me, maybe that could be one of the campaigns, everybody. This is your year to figure out how absentee ballots work. Like, that could be a commercial. You know what I'm saying? I should do that. I would totally do that. Get mixed up on the party straw poll questions, thinking that the state's going, really? Oh my gosh, I could see that though. Last time I voted at City Hall, Saturday before the election, it was fabulous. Oh my gosh, that sounds fabulous. Offered mail-in ballot tracking ability. Okay, well, and that's like really good. And if you could figure out how that works, I think that would reduce a lot of the anxiety. You got to do it now. You got to register. Really, your absentee ballot. Really, you have to register early for it? Oh, well, I don't know now. Now that sounds like work. I don't want to do work. I don't want to do work. I just, oh dear. We need more information videos instead of campaign. Oh my gosh, Navy vet, yes. That's what we need. We need voter information videos and commercials and posts rather than like, here's my stance. Like, dude, I think we get it. Now tell me how to vote properly. Oh my gosh. If you upgrade it now, it'll go into effect before it's all right, all right. I don't know. I'm starting to get anxiety. I'm kidding. I'm getting voter anxiety now, everybody. I don't know. All right, I got to get back to my happy place. Let's dive into some lawsuits here. Oh my gosh. All right, all right, all right. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm having a panic attack. No. Absentee ballots. No. All right, all right, all right. Here we go. So we have this Electoral Count Act. This is closed, by the way. Here, the court is holding plaintiffs' votes were counted, and the plaintiffs articulated only a generalized grievance, so there was no standing. And then we also have this voting rights issue when it came to Detroit voters. That one's not been finished yet. That's kind of ongoing. I don't know where that's going to go, so we'll have to see what happens. That's right, my happy place, my lawsuits. Let's dive in. I know. I can't help it. I can't help it. All right, here we go. Georgia. We're into Georgia now, everybody. We've got a Doherty versus Fulton County. This is still an open case. This is the U.S. Senate runoff case I was telling you about. We've got a Georgia voter alleges a range of fraud. Contestant alleges Secretary of State certified patently inaccurate results, that Texas rejected the Dominion voting system used in Georgia, that county audits were compromised of the proper parties, and that there were fraudulent ballots without creases or on different papers. So when we're talking about, now we're getting into it. Now we're getting into the weeds, everybody. When we're talking about stuff like, why weren't there any creases on the paper, and why was the paper different? We're really going to be getting into the weeds. That's another reason why I think it would be good to inform the voters about what's going on. Yeah, I know. Most questions can be answered by your state Secretary of State's by your Secretary of State's website. Excellent, 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 excellent. Yeah, I agree. I wonder too how much our Secretary of States are really going to push the proper voting situation this year too. I think that's another big question, because these Secretary of States are getting sued left, right, and center constantly over what's going on. So I'm wondering about that too. I think that would be good. Georgia doesn't care. That's funny. Mm-hmm. Poor Georgia. All right, Fair Fight versus True the Vote is also an open case, and this again goes to that Senate runoff. We're still looking at the 11th hour challenge. That again is our Senate race. So I'm going to kind of move past that one. We'll take a look at the here's the Senate one as well. We'll just keep an eye on the presidential races. Here's the Senate. Here's the Senate. Senate. Wow, there's a lot of Senate cases still open. All right, here we go. Mail-in ballot fraud. So this is what I'm talking about, everybody. This is what I'm worried about. Let's see what they've got to say here about that. All right, so here we go. Petitioners, a Fulton County tabulation observer, and several hand count auditors alleged a range of fraud. Petitioners said they detected a sudden 20,000 vote increase for Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, and filed a corresponding report on the phenomenon that went unanswered. That they observed boxes of ballots containing mostly Biden votes. They believe certain cast ballots were fraudulent because they were not creased. So we have this creased issue again. Now, I don't know what's going on with Georgia, so I don't know what that means exactly, but petitioners also allege that an incident at the State Farm Arena, oh my goodness, the incident documented a video posted on social media, oh my gosh, of the water main break. This is the water main break case. Oh my gosh, everybody, this was awful. This has been shown to be false already. So we know that's true. So equal protection, this is the State Farm Arena situation. We'll move past that because this information is incorrect that they were pleading here. That is not how you spell arena, but that's all right. Secretary of State has a sample ballot. They do, and videos. That's good to know. That's good to know. Do they have absentee ballot videos, I wonder? Because I should look at that. You need a, right. It was folded, so they said it was not valid. Interesting. Okay, so, wow. I'm just thinking again, I'm thinking, on the front end, how we can get ahead of these kinds of lawsuits coming after this election here. So if there are questions about if it's folded, then therefore it shouldn't count, but the courts are saying you're not giving us enough information or evidence. Yeah, Cyber Ninja. Oh my goodness gracious. No, not Cyber Ninja. Oh my gosh. All right. Here's the US Senate again, so we'll move past that one. And all right, US Senate race. Wow, that Senate race was really controversial. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how controversial that was. All right, here's our next one. We've got cert denied. This was Linwood versus Raffsberger. The elections clause itself was filed. So let's take a look. 11th Circuit affirmed the district court's holding that Linwood lacks standing to sue because he failed to allege a particularized injury. So no standing here. And I believe he's had some sanctions on his license too. Did he have it fully revoked? I can't remember if it was fully revoked or not. I know he's had some kind of sanctions against him, but I'm not sure. All right, and then here, so they're saying Secretary of State and other state elections violated elections clause by entering into a settlement agreement in March, alleging officials changed the handling of absentee ballots to a manner inconsistent with state law. On a variation of this argument, plaintiff further alleged that the desperate treatment, and this has to do with Bush v. Gore. This is the Bush v. Gore case argument. Anytime you see desperate treatment in voting, you're going to have it. You're going to have that question going on. Oh, California did. Okay, thank you very much. I knew something had happened. All right, next we've got another Senate runoff case here. And then Senate runoff. I'm just skipping through here to kind of give us more of an idea on the presidential ones. Senate runoff. Okay, decertification. Voluntary dismissal. So this was dismissed, by the way, on January 7th. I think that's worth noting. Petitioners, a candidate for presidential elector and voter, initiated an election contest to decertify Georgia's presidential results in the general election. Petitioners contended that Coffee County experienced irregularities during its recount, was unable to certify its recount by the Secretary of State's deadline. Petitioners extrapolated this across Georgia's 159 counties to claim that the election results might instead favor President Trump. This was voluntarily dismissed. So they took this case out themselves. Really, Kari Lake's attorneys also, well, there you go. So this one was voluntarily dismissed, and then we've got another illegal votes question going on. The Supreme Court, Georgia Supreme Court, dismissed the petition to bring the case directly to the state Supreme Court, citing lack of jurisdiction. The court held that the case had not gone through the requisite interlocutory appeals necessary for an election contest, and that it did not meet one of the extremely rare exceptions that merits original jurisdiction. So, one of the new things that was put in the electoral count revision in 2022 was this idea that if you're a candidate and you think there's something wrong, you can expedite your lawsuits. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but at least that has been now included, but only if you're a candidate. Hello, Desert Skies. All right, next up is we've got another Dominion software question going on. We know that that's already been sorted out, so we'll skip past that one here. And, Trump v. Kemp, that was a big one. This was the the Electors Clause case. This was a huge case, everyone. So this one might be worth your time to actually look up. The court denied Trump's motion. The court held the president lacked standing on each of his counts and that only one of the Georgia General Assembly could bring a claim on a count that alleges the November 3rd general election violated the Electors Clause. The court also held the plaintiff's due process claim met neither the causation nor redressability prongs of Article 3 standing requirements. So there's no standing here. So that standing issue was very important. A lot of these cases got tossed because of that. The court nevertheless addressed the merits, stating that only Congress can intervene post-certification and that the plaintiff, involuntarily dismissing his Fulton County case, alleging illegal votes were cast, failed to allow the proper court to review his election challenge. So that's another big one here. So I think one of the things that the Chief Justice has said, not that I listen much to him these days, but one of the things he said is that, the courts are restricted. The court isn't as powerful as a lot of people think because you do have to have a question presented to the court. You have to have standing in order to bring the suit. You have to have a proper jurisdiction and a proper question. Like the courts can't do things on their own. They have to have something brought to them to do it. And then they have to have the proper jurisdiction in order to answer. So there is kind of this check, this middle level check in place in order to keep the courts from being too powerful. But when you've got 1,000 attorneys ready to file, crappy petitions, it's not really a problem because, if you file 1,000, maybe one or two might ding here and there. Which reminds me, by the way, I did see some reporting that Hunter Biden was in a bit of trouble in California for his lawsuit. He has filed a motion to dismiss because of the recent decision by Judge Cannon in Florida. And the judge has admonished him and has said that his filing was not complete. I thought that was a very good. Really good for her. Oh my gosh, good for her. Good for her. Yeah, she needs to. I don't even know. Everybody, she's just a thunderstorm. She's gonna be taking over the world here. But anyway, so that's my Hunter Biden update. Was that Hunter kind of used? It looks to me like he was using some Trump techniques or some bad attorney techniques where they were making a few claims. I've not seen the filing yet, so I cannot confirm it. This is an unsubstantiated rumor at the moment, but we will see what happens. We will see. Yes, exactly. All right, so next up we've got Bolin versus Raffensperger. This was illegal votes also here. The state superior court dismissed the suit. It held that under state law, the named defendants were improper parties, that the suit is barred by laches, that plaintiff is not a candidate and so lacks standing, and that even if the court were to reach the merits, presidential electors are not among those officers covered by Georgia's election contest statute. So there was no standing again. They didn't have proper grounds to even bring the case. Next, Wood versus Raffensperger. That's another huge case here, everyone. Election clause and public-private partnerships. That's a big one. And then here's another one, Schmitz. The court held plaintiff had never served Representative Roberts as was required and dismissed the case. That's interesting. It's a little side note. And then Brooks versus Mahoney. The request was to exclude from all states' overall vote count the votes of counties with alleged voting irregularities. So that's interesting here. So they're saying what we want you to do is any county that has any kind of alleged irregularity, we want you to exclude them from the state's vote count. Can you believe that? Can you believe that they're asking for that? That's like so out of control. That's really out of control here. All right, so that's the what they wanted to have happen. So we've got plaintiffs, 4 Georgia voters filed suits against defendants, members of county boards of elections, Secretary of State, and the governor. Plaintiffs alleged during the election voters were recorded as having voted absentee even though they voted in person. and did not register absentee, that voter registration exceeded 100% of eligible voters, and that non-citizens voted. Plaintiffs sought to exclude counties with any irregularities from the state's overall vote total on the grounds that such counties' inclusions diluted the plaintiffs' votes. So that's pretty awful. Yikes. That's pretty awful, everybody. Seriously, we need some education on how the voting process works. I need to be educated, everyone. I'm needing to be educated. People need to educate me. Where can I go for my voter education? I'm gonna be going. I'm gonna be hanging out on my Secretary of State's website, watching some YouTube videos on how to vote. Yeah, that's some pretty major election interference. Oh my gosh. Same thing they did in Arizona. Yeah. Have to do is make sure that the irregularities. Yeah, exactly. So no one's vote would count. Right. No one's vote would be included in the total tally for any of the counties that have any irregularities. So rather than sorting through the irregularities and getting it fixed and saying, well, you're going to have irregularities, they're just saying, well, they're excluded from the total. As a poll watcher, I know. Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness. All right. Here we go. Also, we've got NRA, enforcement of election laws and securing ballots cast or received after 7 p.m. on November 3rd. The issue was a request to sequester ballots received post-election day. That's an interesting request. The court held there was no evidence that the 53 ballots in question were returned after 7 p.m. on election day, or that Chatham County Board of Elections had violated any law. The petitioners, the Georgia Republican County and Donald J. Trump for president, asked the court to order the Chatham County Board of Elections to follow specific ballot custody procedures, namely to store all absentee ballots received after 7 p.m. on election day as allegedly required by Georgia Code. They also asked the court to order the board to provide an accounting of all such ballots to petitioners. Petitioners claimed this action was necessary to avoid the inadvertent counting of these ballots, which petitioners claimed would be contrary to Georgia law. Yikes. So this reminds me, by the way, we still have that question in the Georgia RICO case where one of the defendants is trying to get all of the voter information, all of the election information still from the local elections board. Does anyone remember that? He's still trying to get it. Has a barcode that gives my voter information. Okay, that's good. Election project. Yeah. A summary of, yes. So here it is right here. The Stanford MIT Healthy Elections Project. So I'm still wondering, I mean, right now we're kind of paused in Georgia, but I'm curious to see how much of that election information will actually be gathered in the Georgia case, because it's a huge question. And they had several people come in and testify like, we can't give you this much information. You don't have a right to it, and we don't have the people power to do it. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see how that turns out as well. We'll have to see. So then we go on to Michigan. So, and I think honestly, everybody, this is a good spot for us to kind of pause. We've made it through about 17 pages here. So let me go ahead and tag this page so we can pick up where we left off. But I think that gives us a good start on the huge number of cases that were brought, the election cases here. I am planning again to do multiple posts on both of the places here and as well as over on TikTok to go through it. So how are we feeling? It has to come mailing stamp dated. Really? Oh, I didn't know that. I'm telling you, I'm learning all kinds of new things tonight. I'm learning all kinds of new things. Like, I really need to figure out how this is supposed to work. Achilles. Oh, thank you, Achilles. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I've learned quite a bit. I appreciate the information, everyone, so I can go and kind of track down what I need to do too. My misunderstandings makes it so that I'm a bit more hesitant. But I mean, of course I'll vote. Of course I will go in and do what I need to do. But, if you could pull that anxiety out of it for some people, I think that would be helpful for me, mainly. It takes a while for ballots to continue to be counted. Yes, exactly right, because you've got more than just the ones for that day. So, isn't there more? Oh my gosh, it so is, Sheila. It really is. I cannot go through and talk about these cases. There's no way I could talk about this and have such an open election discussion over on TikTok. We just couldn't do it. It wouldn't happen. So I really am thankful to be able to do it over here. So I will continue mail-in voting in California. Oh, I love that. I really got to do that. I've got to take a look and do some research. So I again am going to continue to be live streaming once a week over here on the Tube of You. Thursday is actually working out pretty good. I thought tonight worked out pretty well. I'll keep you posted though on exactly what date will work out the best. But I will be back for another live stream. I've got my post that I just put up yesterday on the Electoral College. Tomorrow I should have my post coming up. Wait, did I do the Electoral College already? Well, I don't know. I got a big post coming up. Oh my goodness. So I will keep doing my long posts and also some of my short posts, but I want to make sure to remind everybody I will be live streaming once a week from here. So to make sure that we keep things going over here. I'm not fully launched on the Tube of You yet. That won't happen for another 6 weeks, but I'll keep working on it. But with that, everybody, I will go ahead and sign. Last night was the Electoral College. Yes, I guess I've not posted it yet. I've downloaded it, but not uploaded it. So I'll get that going. But check your community tab. That's where you can leave a comment for me. There's a community tab on YouTube if you go into my page. And then that's where I can also leave comments too on when I need to change, if I need to shift the dates or the times or whatever. So make sure you check your community tab or else I will do a post. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Good to see you. Yes, VC, Mandy, good to see you. Kaya, John, have a great night. Desert Skies, Achilles, yes, Spencer. Kristen, as always, wonderful. Good to see everybody. So I will head back over to the talk to do my subscriber on Sunday. But other than that, I'll just keep everyone posted. So have a great night. I'm going to go do some research about my Secretary of State and my voting process. I'm very excited about that. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.